Welcome to Let's Get Zooming. We're going to talk about Zoom and how you can use it for distance learning. So thank you guys so much for checking out this video. So let's get started. So for those of you that I don't know, my name is Jennifer Hall and I'm an educational technology specialist with Atlanta Public Schools. And what that means is that I provide technology training and support for schools around the district. And I push into classrooms and support with technology integrated lessons. And so now I get to do that virtually. I would love for you to connect with me on Twitter. If you are on Twitter, APSITGen, I'd love for us to connect. So goals for our time together today, I'm gonna provide an overview of the features of Zoom, and hopefully you're gonna gain some tips for using Zoom for distance learning. So those are our goals today. So real quickly, I just love to know who's in the Zoom. So as you're in the chat, you can just drop that in there. 1, elementary school teachers. 2, middle school teachers. 3, high school. 4, media specialists. 5, tech coaches, ETS, ITS, whatever role you might serve. 6 for administration, and 7 for other. So that's a nifty little trick you can use using the chat feature inside of Zoom, is to have a number system, and you can change that out. It's a great SEL check-in. You could change it to be like, who had cereal for breakfast, who had Pop-Tarts, and as the kids are responding in the chat, you can see who all is in the chat. All right. So APS now has purchased Zoom for the district. Super excited about that, having the option for us to use Zoom for virtual meetings, for virtual lessons, and planning collaboration with your colleagues. And I'm really excited because I can use it to provide training in small groups, large groups like this, as well as in one-on-one trainings with teachers. So we have a dedicated page that you're going to go to. That's at HTTPS Atlanta Public Schools -us.zoom.us. So this is a dedicated link that takes you to our login for Atlanta Public Schools. So you're going to want to go to that login, and when you do so, you're going to land on this page right here. And when you get to this page, it asks you 3 things. You want to join or connect to a meeting that's already going on. Do you want to host a meeting, or do you want to sign in? For the purpose of right now, we're going to go ahead and sign in, and you're going to want to sign in with your Google account. Since it already remembers my credentials, it should automatically take me in. But if it's your first time signing in, you're going to want to sign in with your APS credentials. You're going to choose where it says single sign-on with Google. Use Google and use the @apsk12.org. So I'm going to click sign in, and it's going to take me in here right now. So the first thing you're going to see is you're going to see meetings. Schedule a meeting right here. I've already got some scheduled, and so that's why you're going to see those here. Yours will be blank, and it takes you to your home page for scheduling a meeting. That's your landing page when you sign in. But I'm going to walk through some features that we want to make sure that you update or change any settings so that you are familiar with this web-based version of the platform. And then we'll also talk about how you can use the app to change some settings, and we'll look at that too. So let's first of all look at our profile up here. On the left-hand side, when I click on profile, it's going to show information about what account I'm in and my personal meeting ID number, and you can customize that. So I can have a personal link here if you want to customize that, and you could change it to mine. It would be Miss Hall. It could be Jen Hall, APSIT Jen. I could change it to whatever I want. So you as a teacher can change it to Miss Hall's room. That way you have a dedicated personalized custom link. We're going to make sure your sign in here. It's going to make sure, see, I'm using that apsk12.org. So we're going to, I'm licensed. You know you're in the right place when you see the APS logo up here. The main thing you want to adjust, if you want to, is your personal link. Customize that. And this is the other thing. By default, it's going to post your Google image that you've attached to your Google account. So maybe you've uploaded a headshot that you like, or your Bitmoji, and I uploaded a custom one. So you can change this and upload what you want this to be. You want to make sure that you have a image in your profile so that when you join meetings, you're not just your name on a screen. There's either a Bitmoji or a headshot of you, so that when the participants know who's there, that way if you turn your camera off, that's what'll be the standing image there. So that's over on the profile. So there we go. So let's go ahead and dive down and look at settings. This is where we want to set up some settings before we create any meetings. Okay, so I'm going to go to settings, and we're going to walk through a number of settings. Okay, so the first thing is your first setting that you can set is a waiting room. The purpose of a waiting room is that if I start a meeting and I don't want everybody to jump in there at once, you can have a waiting room and you can allow people in so you can verify who's there. I don't have that turned on because when I do professional development and I've got 100 or 200 people joining, I don't want to have to manually let every person in. You've joined via a secure link, which I'm going to show you how to create that. So I don't have that on. But if you want to have a waiting room as an instructor, as a teacher, you just want to be sure that the right people are joining, you can turn that on. So I don't have that on right now. There's a password required that's actually locked by the admin. That means a password is required, so it makes it more secure so we don't have to worry about Zoom bombing. Scroll down here, embed a passcode in your invite. I have that turned on. That means when I generate a meeting and I get that link to send out, automatically the password is embedded, so it's a one-click entry. You don't have to add in the meeting code. You don't have to put in a password. Only authenticated users can join meetings. That means they have to make sure they're in an APS account. I didn't have that turned on because, for example, today when I did training, I had people joining with their APS accounts. They also joined with their personal accounts because they're still getting familiar with it. But you can turn that on and make sure that only people that have authenticated through are accessible and can join your meeting. So when you schedule a meeting, these are default settings. When I host do I want my video to be on by default? So if I have it turned off, and here's why. If I had that turned on, that means as soon as I start and click open, boom, my camera's turned on and everybody can see me. I personally want to make sure I can start my meeting and make sure I've got my screen set up before I turn on my camera. So I don't have that turned on. It's up to you. And I also have it turned off for participants because I don't want to put anybody on blast and they join my meeting and their camera's automatically on and they're not ready for that. So I have those turned off for both. That's personal choice for you. When we get to the audio type, as you can see, you can have it be telephone and computer audio, telephone or computer audio only. The telephone and computer audio allows people that if for some reason they have not very good internet connection or they don't have a good mic or their mic's not working, they can call in and use that for the ability to listen and to communicate in a call. This is the other one that is really important, the join before host. I have that turned off. And the reason I have that turned off is because if I'm hosting the meeting, I don't want anyone hopping in before I get there. The benefit of that is if you are an instructor, if you're a classroom teacher and you send out a Zoom link, you don't want your students hopping into the Zoom before you're there. So I have that by default turned off. Now, if you are an administrator and you're just hosting the meetings and you're okay with everybody joining the meeting before you get there and they can start without you, you can turn that on. But I have it off, especially if I was going to be working with students, I would have that off. You can have a personal meeting ID, which again, that custom room that you can create. So I have that on. You can use a one for scheduling if I want. I can start it for instantly. It will start using it. It will say, oh, you're in Jen's meeting room. I also have this turned on, muting participants upon entry. Here's why. You never know when someone clicks to enter, they're in the midst of doing something else. And you really don't want to have a cacophony of 100 participants all joining, and one by one we hear everybody still talking to people at home or they're still taking a phone call and all of that. So I have it automatically mute and they have to turn on their microphone to talk at the opening of a session. So I definitely have that on. I like that there's an upcoming meeting reminder. It'll populate on my screen and say, hey, you got a meeting in 30 minutes, and then it will remind me again in 5 right before. So I have that turned on as well. In Meeting Basic, this is just turned on, require encryption for third party. It's kind of a tech security thing. On is good. It just means that it's going to make sure that everything is secure and it's encrypted and we don't have to worry about that Zoom bombing. Allow meeting participants to send a message visible to all participants. So I have the chat turned on. You can turn that off. So you know your learners. If you don't think that they can handle working with a chat, you can disable that. But that would be a global setting when you create meetings. You could go in and turn it on individually in a meeting, but I have mine on. But I also have not ticked this. It says prevent. You can prevent participants from saving chat. So if I turn that on, that means I don't want people, because we've shared stuff in there, to make a copy of the chat. So you could do that. It's no worries if you have it on or off. This is the next one that's kind of important. Allow meeting participants to send private one-on-one message to another. I have that turned off. And the reason I have that turned off is the fact that if I were working with a group of students, I don't want them to be sidebar having conversations because I'm not monitoring that. Okay. So that's turned off. I can also turn on auto saving chats. It will save all the meeting chats. So this allows for me to change it if I want to do that. Sound notification when someone joins or leaves. Okay, I don't know how many of you guys have been in a meeting and every time someone joins, you get that doorbell ding. I personally not a fan, so I don't have that turned on, because if I've already started a session, I'm doing a PD, I don't want that interruption. I don't need that audio cue because I already have my chat up and participants up, and I'm going to be watching that. But if you want that audio cue that if a student's joining you late and it dings and lets you know, you can definitely do that. File transfer, I have that turned off, the ability for you guys to send files. For security reasons, I just don't need anyone sending me a file, because you can easily send it via Google Drive or OneDrive. Co-host allows the host to add co-hosts, which means, for example, I'm doing a training and Dr. Walker is supporting me as a co-host, and I've given her the power to also add additional co-hosts. You can do that as well. So that allows you, if you have a co-teacher, you can have that co-teacher give the powers to somebody else. I can also add polls to the meeting controls. I definitely want to have that on so we can do polling live in a session. Addition to that, I want to always show my meeting control bar. This is important so that I can see all of the options, and we're going to look at that meeting toolbar here shortly. Additionally, show Zoom windows during screen share. That allows the ability to see what's going on in the Zoom window. And screen sharing allows me to show what's on my screen. And the default, I have host only can screen share. The reason I do not have on all participants is because if I were working with a group of students, I don't want the students to all of a sudden go, hey, look at what's on my screen. You can give them co-host powers temporarily during a session if you want them to share their screen. And I can also disable desktop screen share for others users if I want. I don't have that on. This is the other important one. I've turned on annotation. Allow host and participants to use the annotation tools to add information to shared screens. This is really cool. I did a session earlier today, and it was awesome because on the whiteboard or even on my screen, students have annotation tools, so participants can go in and circle and annotate on things collaboratively. It's really cool. I can save those shared screens with annotations if I want. Only the user who is sharing can annotate. If I turn that on, that means me as the instructor, I'm the only one that can annotate. I would like to have it open and allow students to be able to use that tool. Additionally, I've turned on the whiteboard, and we're going to look at that whiteboard feature as well. It allows the host and participants to share a whiteboard, and we had a blast writing and adding text and annotating on that earlier today. Allow saving or share of the whiteboard content. So if you want to capture that just to document what students did, you can do that. Then we're getting into like remote control options. If you want someone to control your screen, I wouldn't turn that on. I've turned on non-verbal feedback, which allows them to do icons, kind of a thumbs up, thumbs down, and there's also meeting reactions. That way you can see a visual cue on your grid of video of how students are feeling if you want them to use those reactions. So I have those on. Another one that you might want to look at is allow remove participants to rejoin. I have that off. The reason being, if I've removed you for a reason. I don't need you to rejoin a session. So if for some reason someone gets into your room that you didn't want there, I have that turned off so they can't try and get back in. Allow participants to rename themselves. I've turned that on because right now, as people are participating, some of them are logging in from different accounts and they have someone else's name on them. And so that way they can go in and rename it so you know who they are and it's captured who the participant is. You can hide participant profile pictures in a meeting if you don't want to see pictures. You just want to see names on the screen. You can do that. But I like to see the pictures and the Bitmojis and everything. So we got a few more things to take a look at here in the advanced section under meetings. Report participants to Zoom. That's turned on. If there's any problem, inappropriate stuff, it will allow you under security to say, hey, we got Zoom bombed. Not that that's going to be an issue, but that is an option. The next one, and this is the one I know teachers are really excited about, as well as PLC leaders and content coordinators and everybody, the breakout room allows you to host, split you up into different groups. So I've turned that on. So by default, that's going to show up. And I can allow the host to assign participants when I'm scheduling. So if I know, for example, I'm doing a session with my ELA department and I've got 12 participants, but I want us to break us up into smaller groups, I could go ahead and schedule 3 people in this room, 3 people in this room, 3 people in that room, which is really cool. Onto the remote support, that's one-on-one. You're not going to worry about that. There is a closed captioning. If you do have someone that is typing closed captions, you can assign a participant to do that. That's on. So that's a great accessibility feature if you want. You can save the captions if need be. There's a language interpretation allows them to include interpreters. I was on a webinar where there was an interpreter, which that means that they were also a featured video, and you could see the interpreter, which is pretty cool. This is the other one that you really want to pay attention to. This is the virtual background. I've turned that on, and I've also allowed the use of videos as virtual backgrounds. That means when people join my meeting, if you want to have a virtual background, you can. Identify guest participants. That means if someone joins outside of APS with my secure link, it will tell me that they've joined and they're not a member of my organization. So that's a great way to know that. Show a join from your browser link. This allows people to participate without having to download the Zoom client. And the other allows for streaming meetings, and this is really cool. This is something you can do at your school level or in your department. You can stream to either Facebook, Workplace by Facebook, or YouTube, and use Zoom as your platform for communicating out to, for parent night kind of thing, a community conversation, and you can stream it to any of these platforms. So I've got that connected as well. I can put the request permission to unmute. I could turn that on, and that means someone has to ask me if I'm going to let them unmute. But if I've already muted you when you've joined and you have to consciously unmute yourself, I'm going to be okay with that because you made the choice to unmute yourself to participate in the conversation. When an alternate host is set or removed from a meeting, it will notify me. So you can add an alternate host. So if you're a co-teacher, you can go in and say, hey, when I create this meeting, this person also has the same level of controls, and you can add them as a co-host, and I'll show you how to do that shortly. Click regenerate, and it's going to update any settings I've changed. Okay, so let's go back to the schedule a meeting option. So if I'm under here, I'm going to do schedule a meeting, and let's go ahead and schedule a meeting. For example, I'm going to have a Google Classroom training. I put some instructions, and I'm going to have that Google Classroom training tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So I pick my time and I pick my duration. Here's the thing. When I create this, I can set the date. I don't actually have to use the link for the meeting on that date. It's just saving that link that I can access. Additionally, even though I said it's going to be an hour meeting, if we go over, that's not a problem. But it creates a link that people can join for that session. Now, you can make it a recurring meeting. So, for example, if this was I'm creating it for first period, second period, third period, it's going to generate a link for every single day that you're going to meet. But you could also just have it be a standing meeting. I can go up here and say, remember, video by default is going to be off. Participant is off. Yep, that's disabled, enabling to join before the host. It's going to automatically mute my participants. I did not choose authenticated users. I did not pre-assign my breakout room. That's fine. I'm going to record the meeting automatically in the cloud, and I can add in any alternative host by adding whatever their name is and doing the apsk12.org. So once I've got that, I'm going to click Save. Now I've got this calendar invite. I can add it to Google, Outlook, or Yahoo. I've got my meeting ID. I've got my passcode. I do not have a waiting room. That's perfectly fine. This is the link that I'm going to want to send. Okay, so if I grab this link, I'm going to say copy this invitation, and this is what you can borrow from. I can put all this information, that's what time and all that. This is the magic link right there. If I send that link or I post that link in Google Classroom, that's what people are going to click on to join because I've embedded the password. It automatically is there. It's a one-click join for a meeting. Okay, and it also has the meeting ID and passcode if someone's calling in. But if I copy and paste this in to my Google Classroom, my Microsoft Teams, or post it in an invite, or I add it to a Google Calendar, I'm good to go and people can join the meeting at that time. Okay, so I can scroll down here and make sure everything is good to go. I'm good. So I can just copy that invitation and I'm good. So let's look at recordings. So you have options for setting it for cloud recordings or local recordings. So cloud recordings means it's going to save it in the cloud and you can access those resources. If you're going to use local recordings, that means it's going to save locally. Like I've recorded a number of sessions and I recorded them to my local computer. And the benefit of that was it allows me to edit them and, edit out extraneous stuff and then be able to upload it. And when I do that, it's going to, I could upload it to my Google Drive. I could upload it to a YouTube channel. Cloud recordings are going to live here. And if you do that here, what's cool is I can go into, like this was a personal meeting room. I used it as an example. It's going to give me two files. There's the video file and an audio file. If I had a chat, I'd have a third file that would say chat. And if there was audio to it, it would also transcribe, which would be your fourth option. So like you can get it to auto transcribe, which is really, really cool. So that's where you find your recordings and you can go back and check those recordings out. So the last thing I want to show you is the reports, and this is all on the web portal. And then we're going to look at the settings on the local app that's going to be on your computer. So let's look at reports. When we look at reports, we have a couple of options. I can see meeting. I can view the registration reports and poll reports, like anything that we did as a poll or anything. But I want to look at usage reports. If I go to usage reports, I can see what sessions I've already had. I can also see the number of participants in the session. And when I do that, what's really cool is I can drill down and see who showed up. So I have a lot of people saying, well, I need to be able to take attendance. What's great is because you've logged in, Zoom tracks that you have logged in, and it's going to let us know. So let's take a look at this one here. We did just yesterday, Amplifying Student Voice. Was a session we had. So I'm going to open that up. The session was 77 minutes long. I'm going to open this up and I can see all of my meeting participants. I can see how long they were in the session. So I can see, did you stay pretty much? You maybe were a minute or two late, or you left a minute or two early. I can check that. But if I go to show unique users, because some people log in and log back out, I can still see who was there and how long. So now you've got your attendance report for that session. It's a super cool option to be able to track who was in your session. So that lives under reports, and I just went into my specific meeting and I can export that as a Excel spreadsheet, and I could go in and double check my attendance for any student that you thought might not have been there. So that's the nuts and bolts of the main dashboard here. Definitely glad we covered that. So next up, we're going to take a look at the actual Zoom app. So let me go ahead and open up this Zoom app. So this is the local app that lives on your device. And from here, I can start a new meeting automatically. I can join a meeting. I can schedule a meeting. I can share a screen directly from here. But there's a couple of other settings we want to take a look at. And this is how you control your camera and virtual backgrounds and your audio and stuff. So what we're going to do over here is we're going to click on settings. So once I've opened up the app, and it lives down here at the bottom of my screen. It's called Zoom. I just type in Zoom and it lives there. And if you want to save it as a favorite, you can right click on it when you open it and make sure it saves in your taskbar. If you're on a Mac, you can just right click and choose Save in Dock. So I'm going to go to the settings. And when I open up the settings, you'll see here's my general. I can choose how Zoom works for me. Now notice I'm logged into my correct Zoom account up here. I can start Zoom when Windows open, so it automatically opens if I want. When closed, minimize the window. I don't worry about that. Use dual monitors. That comes in handy if you have two monitors. If you don't click that, and you can resize windows to make it work for you. Enter full screen automatically when starting or joining a meeting. That means it's going to put me into the meeting and go full screen. I have that on. I can automatically copy the link once the meeting starts. I didn't do that. I'm not worried about that. Ask me to confirm when leaving. I do have that just in case I inadvertently click on the end button and I didn't mean to. It'll say, are you sure you want to leave? I can show my connected time so I can see how long I've been in a particular meeting. And I can also have reminders that'll pop up. Remind me 5 minutes before. I can stop my video and audio when my display is off. I don't have that on. And I can choose my reaction skin tone. You know, I think that's great so you can have your personality represent you. Choose your reaction skin tone so you can do that. Now, if I did this view more settings, it's going to open up and take me back to that web portal to change a lot of other stuff. So that's what that is. So let's go over here to video. And when you go to video, you're going to see this is my camera coming through. So now we're in like Inception. And that's why you got that weird matrix effect there. I can choose what my camera looks like. Original ratio 16:9. I can choose, am I using HD? If I mirror my video, it flips me. If you want to mirror it. So like that's my left hand and that's what I'm seeing. But if I were to flip it, it's over there. It's up to you. I love this touch up my appearance. Yes, please make me ageless. That's what I want it to do. Under meetings, always display participant names on their videos. You can do that. That way you want to see who it is if you don't know everyone. Turn off my video when joining a meeting. I have it off, right? And always show video preview dialog when joining a meeting. And that's just double checking that my video is working. I can hide non-video participants. That means that right now that they don't have their camera on. I have that on just because it allows for the gallery view to be a little bit cleaner. I can spotlight my video when I speak, which means when I pop up, it's going to put a little yellow box around me. I can display up to 49 participants per screen in gallery view. So if you've got a full class, you want to be able to see that many people, you can have that on. So there we go with that video. Let's take a look at our audio options. And so when we go to audio, I can double check. As you can see, my input is working. I've selected my Snowball my Snowball microphone, and you can registers my volume. I could actually adjust it up a little bit higher if I wanted. I can automatically adjust it. I can check my speaker. I have a test here. And it will let me check that my audio is coming through. And you're going to want to do that just to make sure everything's good before you get into your session. I can use separate audio device to play ringtones simultaneously. I'm not doing that. I can automatically join computer audio when I join a meeting, so it knows I'm using my computer. I can mute my microphone when I join a meeting, because remember, I don't want to all of a sudden put everybody on blast. I'm making a bunch of noise. I can press this is cool. Press and hold the space bar to temporarily mute and unmute yourself. So if you hit the space bar, it mutes you and unmutes you. And I can also sync my buttons on a headset. There's a little bit more advanced, but we're not going to worry about that. This is the share option. When I'm sharing, I can enter full screen so that it covers the whole screen if I'm sharing. I can choose a couple of options. Scale to fit content for the Zoom window, so you can make sure things fit in there. I can also do a side-by-side. So I'm sharing my screen, and on the right side, I'm going to see the gallery. So this is all just personal choice here. I can go to the chat, and I can choose some options here. Include link preview. So if I put a link to like my website, it would pop up with a little preview. I can change my status to be like inactive if I step away. I can choose what my theme is, dark or light. That's pretty cool. I can choose about unread messages. Anything I haven't scrolled through in the chat, I can say I want to make sure that I've not read it. I can put that at the top. Move messages with new replies, so I can kind of organize what that chat looks like, which is a pretty cool feature. When viewing unread messages in the channel, start at the first unread, so I can see it literally, like what people responded in a session. And I can say push notifications, which means a little bubble pops up to say, hey, there's messages. I'm going to say all of them. As a trainer, I want to make sure I don't miss any. And then there's a couple other notification options down here. Play a sound when you receive a message. It kind of dings. Mute those notifications. I've got that on as well. So those are options there. So this right here is the next setting that you guys really want to check out. This is where the teachers were super excited about access to Zoom, is the virtual background. So when I go to virtual background, this is pretty cool. I have none picked because I'm using another tool to do this, but I could pick another one of these. They give you can be in San Francisco, out in the wilderness, or a nice little in the grass somewhere, or Earth. I've uploaded some, and because I've upgraded, I've got a couple of video ones. So you can put video loops in the background, which is super cool. And if you want to make a custom Zoom background, I've got a tutorial on using Canva to make a Zoom background. So you might want to check out that video. I'll put the link in the description, and you can check that out and be like, oh, I want to make some really cool Zoom backgrounds. It just makes it really interesting. I've checked this box that I have a green screen, and I've done that because I do have a green screen and it's going to look better. If it's virtual without a green screen, you're going to kind of get a little bit of a haze around you because it's a little bit of an overlay filter. I have a green screen, so that's on. So let's look at recording. I've chosen I can record locally on my computer if I want to, or I'm choosing to record locally, in the cloud. So you can choose that, and I can record video during screen sharing. I've done that because I want to make sure that whatever I record, if I screen share, that I'm capturing that as well. This is also where I can edit my profile if I wanted, and but I'm not going to worry about that. Statistics will show me how much I've used in terms of memory. If your computer's running slow, you can check things there. If you want to learn about keyboard shortcuts, you can go in and choose which ones you want. So like the muting yourself with the space bar, you can choose which ones you want. And then accessibility just kind of make sure that the meeting controls are visible so we can always see it. You can also change the size of your chat. This is a really cool option for making it larger. If you're visually impaired, you can make that chat text a lot bigger. In addition to that, you can also choose the closed caption if they're using closed captioning, if you want that larger, so you can see that as well. So these are all the main settings here inside of Zoom. So now I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to open up a meeting here real quick and show you behind the scenes in terms of the toolbar and some of the features when you're actually running a meeting. So let's click on here. We're going to say new meeting. So I've started a meeting, and as you can see, I've defaulted that I am using my computer audio, but I'm going to have to unmute myself, and I'm going to have to start my video. So if I click start my video, this is going to happen. This is like the Matrix effects right there. So I'm going to turn that off right now, but I can also unmute myself here, and I'm good to go. So I'm going to walk through this toolbar down here on the bottom and show you some of the features of running an actual meeting. So if I click on security, if I accidentally set something and I want to be able to change it, I can go here and I can choose to lock the meeting. So that means after all of your participants have come in, if you don't know anyone else to join, you can lock your meeting. If you realize, oh, I should have put a waiting room, I can go ahead and enable that now. So if you've decided, oh, it's going to be a bigger session, I want to have them go into the waiting room, I can do that. I can allow participants to share screen if I change my mind, because remember, I turned it off because by default if I'm working with students, but if I know I'm going to be working with adults and I want that ability, I can turn that on. I could turn off the chat. It's already on. I can allow you to still rename yourselves. I can turn that off if I want, and I can allow you to unmute yourself or not. So that's under the security feature here. Next up is the participants tab. And if we look at the participants tab, I'm the only one in the session because I'm just doing a demo here. But as you can see, I've got some reactions here. I've got the yes, no, go slower, go fast, more options there. Thumbs up, thumbs down, waves, high fives, that kind of stuff. Allows you to kind of give a heads up. I can choose if I needed to invite someone else that wasn't in the meeting, I can send that. I can choose to hit that mute all. So that means if people did come in and unmute themselves, I used to do that button. Like if we start a session and people unmute themselves and they're having a conversation and then I get ready to launch my presentation, I might choose to mute all, which is a great option there. I can go to the three dots here and I can choose to change a few other things. I could turn on that enter chime button if I do want to get alerted that someone's joined my session. Again, there's that enable the waiting room, and I can lock a meeting. That's under the participants tab. So moving along here, next we have polls. This is a really cool option to use to engage your learners. So if I click on polls, I've already got one here set up and I'm going to launch polling. I've got one that says, what do you think of Zoom? Multiple choice. Love it, like it, not sure, not a fan. If I go to edit, I want you to see what it looks like for me to create it. It actually opens it in the web app and pulls up that poll. And I can give this poll a title right here. So I'm going to say all about Zoom. I can make it anonymous. And by making it anonymous, that just means that when you get your report at the end, we showed where that report section was. That just means you won't know who said what if you really want to get a pulse check that's anonymous. So I can type my question here. So I can single choice or multiple choice. So it could be love it, like it, not sure, not a fan. So I've got those options and I could choose to add multiple questions. So if I've got a session, I could prepare my polls ahead of time, or I could do this live very quickly, as you can see. Ask a question during a session. So I can do multiple questions, but I'm gonna click save and now I'm good to go. So I've got, notice, a couple of questions in here that I can use in my Zoom poll. So let's go head back over to the meeting and I can launch that poll. When I launch the poll, it's gonna go live. It's gonna tell me how many attendees have responded and what percentage. It's gonna show me how long I've allowed this. So if I say, guys, you have 1 minute to respond to this, I can watch that and I can see as results are coming in. When I'm done, I can click end polling. And then I can choose to share the results, and that will show it to the participants that are in the session. I could also relaunch it. I could choose to go into another poll as well. So that's the polling option, which is really cool and a great way to engage your participants in your session. Next up, we have the chat. And remember, we enabled chat in terms of everyone can add to a group chat, but you can also go here and participants can chat with no one, host only, or everyone publicly. That means whatever they post, everyone's going to see it. Okay? So that is under the chat option. And moving along here, next up we have the share screen. So if I click on share screen, it's going to pull up what I have available. So there's screen 1, screen 2. So I have 2 monitors. And I can also go with a whiteboard. I can attach and connect to an iPhone or iPad. I can choose specifically to just share a tab that's in Google Chrome or a particular window or app, because those are different apps that I've got running right now. I can choose to share my computer sound. So if I'm playing a video locally, I can do that. And if I optimize for screen sharing for video, then it's going to be able to share the audio and anything that you want to show. Down on the bottom here, it will show how long I've been in my meeting. I can still do that mute, but I can stop the share or I can pause it. So pausing it means I didn't change what I was sharing. I'm just pausing in case somebody else is sharing. Next up, I have my the share screen that you really want to check out is if I choose one participant can share at a time or multiple participants can share simultaneously. So if you're in a team meeting, you can have everybody queued up to share and you can toggle back and forth between screens. And if you go to advanced sharing, one participant at a time, multiple participants who can share, only host or all participants. Remember, I turned that off if I was working with students. So back under the share screen, I also want to look at this whiteboard. This is super cool. So I'm going to click on whiteboard. And it launches this collaborative whiteboard with tools up here. So I can actually type in text. This is Zoomtastic. I can actually do this. I can use the select tool so I can move this around. I can resize it, make it smaller, whatever I want. I can choose to draw, so I can get annotation tools, so I can draw a little smiley face here. I can also choose under draw to do thicker lines. I can choose to do different shapes. So if I'm actually wanting to explain a concept, I could be in like box 1 here. I can choose circles. So I've got lots of options. So as you're talking through a lesson, this kind of reminds me of using like Active Inspire, where you're drawing your shapes while you're talking through a lesson. So I can, if I want to clear it, I can say clear all my drawings, all drawings, my drawings, or the viewer's drawings. So I'm going to just clear all. So I've got that. I can go here and add in some stamps, which is going to, if I add a stamp, it's going to drop that. I can add in the little hearts. So it's a great way for you and participants to be able to kind of like comment on ideas or things that are on there. So what's great is because we turn annotation on, your participants are going to see this in the bottom of their toolbar down there. When they join, they'll see that they can use annotation and they can draw as well. I can use the spotlight tool, which is a laser. So as I'm highlighting and pointing out things, I can do that as well. I can use an eraser if need be. I can go into formatting, so I can pick colors, line width, bold text, that kind of stuff if I want. Here's that undo button, which is magical, and the redo if I wanted to put everything back that I had on there. Also, I can choose that clear, and if I want to save this at the end, I can do that as well. So I'm going to go back to the select. I could choose to save this, and it's been saved. So that's the whiteboard tool, and what's magical is the fact that everybody can participate in it as well. So also I want to point out under the screen sharing, I can go to some more advanced options and choose a portion of a screen. I can choose music or computer sound only, or I can actually, if I've connected a document camera, I can point to it so that it knows that's where I'm going to share that from. So those are all your options in terms of sharing your screen. So next up, I'm moving along here. If I want to record my session, I can go ahead and record. It's telling me I'm muted, which I know I am because I'm recording right now. It's going to record my session, and in the upper left-hand corner up here, you're going to see that I'm recording. I can pause, I can restart, and when I'm done recording, I can choose to stop that. So it's going to automatically save my recording up in the cloud because that's where I've set that setting up. Moving along, I've got the closed caption option, and how that works is you can assign someone to type. So there's someone that's a typist that's going to type what people are saying. You can say you're going to type. That means if you're the person that can type while you're talking, that's a gift. You can do that. And then there's also where you can do a third-party app where you connect it to, I haven't played around with that, but that's pretty cool that that's an integration as well. So next up, this is the one that teachers are really super excited about, and that's the ability to have breakout rooms. So I don't have any participants in my room right now, but I could choose, say if I had 30 participants, I could say that I want to put them in groups of 3. So I want to have 10 rooms, and I can say group them automatically, which means it's going to go and it's going to magically or auto-magically put people in groups. But I could also choose to do it manually, which means I'm going to say I know that this student needs to be in this group because I'm kind of leveling my groups, and this really works for differentiation. So I can choose to create rooms, and notice it already automatically created my rooms. I can go in and assign students, and then I can also rename them. I could rename the breakout rooms to be, the blue group, the red group, the yellow group, however you want to do that. I can do that as well. But let's look at some options. If I go to options, I can also say move all participants into the breakout room automatically. This works for littles and just for students in general, that you want to automatically make the breakout room. When you click breakout, it moves students where they need to go. You can allow participants to come back to that main session, which is the main room, like if you want. You can say the breakout rooms close automatically after, and you can time it out. So basically, if you're saying they're going to get together for 5 minutes or 10 minutes for a turn and talk kind of activity, you could do that. You can say notify me when time is up, so it's going to give me that countdown. Everybody's coming back together. And then the countdown after closing the breakout room is going to give a countdown timer. You can set that to let them know. I've been in a breakout room, and there's a little timer that's telling me that says you have about 10 seconds left, so you can say farewell and wrap up your conversation. So those are the options. And when I'm ready, I would just open all rooms. Can't do that right now because I don't have any participants in, but it will will automatically send everybody where they need to go. And you can then bring everybody back after they've broken out into that small group conversation. So that breakout room is going to be down here. Remember, we turned that on in settings that we wanted to have that available. So let's click over here to more, and this is the last couple of settings we're going to look at, and that is that you can go live to Facebook. Remember, we turned that on as an option, live to Workplace or live on YouTube. So that gives you options if you want to do a group activity or push out and have people tune in outside of the district. For example, a parent night kind of activity. So there's that. When I'm done with my meeting, I can click end. If I want to go out a full screen, so I need to get to some other tab or something on my computer, I can do that as well. But that is the overall of both the web settings and the local app that you use to start a meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and end this meeting here real quick. And I'm going to end the meeting for all, and we're going to close out. And there we go. So just a couple of tips. You want to make sure you schedule your class in Zoom for your desired date and time, and you can copy that invite and details to send to your students. Put it in your Google Classroom. Make it a dedicated topic so students can find it. They do not need to register for an account. They're going to join with that secure link you share. Please make sure you join a couple of minutes early. I'm going to make sure you're there before to make sure that everything's set up correctly. There are a couple of tips I would say for virtual meetings you want to make sure to share with your students. I've got a couple of infographics. I will link them in the description if you'd like to share that out with your students. And just kind of some online class etiquette, some rules and guidelines in terms of how you behave in a virtual lesson. And last but not least, you want to lock your virtual classroom. Once you get everybody in there, you can lock it, and so you don't have to worry about people joining again. You can control who that screen sharing has that ability to do that. Enabling that waiting room if you don't want students to just hop into your class before you start. You can lock down the chat so only they can publicly chat or they can't chat at all. And the ability to remove a participant definitely levels it up. We're glad that we have Zoom now because we have some extra benefits, including the fact that we can have unlimited meetings for up to 100 participants. I think we can do 300. I'm going to double check that number. We have screen sharing capability. We've got the whiteboarding now. You can use the annotation, the virtual backgrounds, breakout rooms. All of that is a great features that are going to be able to level up your virtual online sessions. There is a comprehensive guide to educating through Zoom, and so I'm going to have that link in the description as well. It's in this presentation where I've screenshotted a lot of this information, so you can definitely take a look at that for a little deeper dive. In addition to that, there's some tips and tricks for teachers using Zoom. I'm going to put that link in there as well. Just so you know, in case you were curious, yes, the security and privacy is in place, so it is COPPA and FERPA compliant in terms of using Zoom. It is appropriate and covers the privacy rules. We have a dedicated website for Zoom and resources that we're building out as we're using Zoom as a new tool in APS. So the link will also be included in the description for this video, so you can grab resources from there so you can check that out. There are a wealth. This is just a handful of tools you can use through Zoom to engage your learners. If you want to level up using tools like Nearpod and Kahoot and Pear Deck, PBS Learning Media, Flipgrid, and Discovery Ed are just a handful of tools that you can use to make your lesson engaging for distance learning. And if you're looking for distance learning resources, I would suggest you check out my Tech Tips 411 page. Distance learning resources are there. You might want to peruse that, and it might be beneficial. So our goals for this session, and I know that this was a deeper dive running through all of the settings, but I wanted to make sure that we covered all of the features of Zoom. So I did provide that overview of the features of Zoom, and I gave you some tips for using Zoom for distance learning. All right, questions, comments, please drop them in the chat and feedback for this video. I'd love to know if you have any questions or comments regarding what was shared today. If you haven't already done so, you are welcome to check out resources at my techtips411.com website. There's a ton of resources on there, so please check that out. In addition to that, if you'd like to sign up for my weekly Tech Tips 411, you can do so. Teachers that are assigned to my schools automatically get an email from me, but if you'd like to opt in to get the email with a weekly tech tip resource, please do so. In addition to that, I have a number of tutorials and quick tip videos available on my YouTube channel, Tech Tips 411. So please feel free to check those out. Self-paced training, bite-sized tutorials that are 2 to 3 minutes up to full-fledged 30 to 40-minute tutorials that will help you as you prepare for distance learning. And also, I have a Facebook page that I stream to and share resources, so you might want to like that on Facebook. And I'm super excited that I just launched a podcast that is now it's audio of my PDs I've been offering, and so I've already uploaded a number of PDs that are there. So if you want to take a walk and take a listen, you can do that with the Tech Tips 411 podcast. And last but not least, if you're looking for some video resources, EdTech tips, all different kinds of tools, you can get my app, which allows you to scroll through my weekly tips, check out my resources, see my favorite tools that I recommend. If you're looking for extensions or my gear, all of that is in the palm of your hand on your app. So I really appreciate your time tuning into this session. That hopefully you found this beneficial, that you gained a deeper understanding of how to use Zoom to support your learners for distance learning, and using tools like breakout rooms and the whiteboard feature to engage your learners. All right. Thank you guys so much for checking this out, and let me know if you have any questions.